So I've been waiting to make this video for about 2 weeks because I wanted to get at least one of the new characters leveled up. Just one. And I haven't been able to do that for a combination of reasons. And the patch has been out for 2 weeks. And my YouTube stream is flooded now with non-stop content creator videos about balance of the game, worst patch ever. Balance of the game, not the worst patch ever. This person responding, this person responding, this person responding. So let me throw my hat into the ring and start by addressing the number one thing. Balance is not the issue. People complaining about balance and saying that balance is the problem. The balance of the game right now is terrible. No. Let's identify what the real problem was before. The real problem before was the community. Now, I have a small list of people who play this game, and most of these people at this point in time are fed up. Since this patch has come out, I have not been able to play the game as much as I would like to because of the fact that 90% of the time, if I want to play this game, I am solo queue. Demon, Survivor, doesn't matter. Because most of my friends have decided this game is trash compared to Dead by Daylight, is crashing too much, which has been the number one issue that this game has had since the 2013 patch came out, or it's not fun for them anymore. Now, the reason for all of those things have actually nothing to do with balance. Everybody has commented that the balance of this game is fun, and I want to address that slightly. So the number one problem that the game had came from the fact that Saber once again fucked this up. First off, console players did not get access to the new survivors until the next day because they fucked up handling the PlayStation Store. Is this a big issue? No. When you look at the fact that if you're somebody like me who had time the day of to play the game, and then I had to go back to work, and I have not been able to do a lot of work. I've been working non-stop, so I haven't been able to work on this game. So because of that fact, I lost some valuable progress time because they messed that up. Second, and probably most egregious of all, hidden balance changes. This is the second major content update in a row where I went through with a literal pen and paper and had to write down an entire list of balance changes that weren't featured in the patch notes. I still have the old patch notes right here. I have 3 pages worth, and I have another 2 pages worth of handmade notes. Things like, oh, so balance bar aura for Annie gets nerfed. Oh, so seeing stars gets nerfed. Blunt force trauma gets nerfed. Henry, secret cooldown. Another cooldown nerf on Ed. Oh, wow, Puppeteer gets massive buffs, Warlord massive buffs, Necro minor buffs. The lack of communication that Saber gives us is terrifying. Another issue that segues into this is then partly through the patch, with people sorting this out, the next mission was canceled, Adios Elagos, which we knew was coming, and we thought Adios Elagos was going to be the next one coming out. It's canceled. Now, the coming soon still hasn't been removed, so possibly it's not been canceled, especially because the art designer that posted the tweet had to pull that tweet. We don't know if maybe the outcry was strong enough. The issue with that is that, well, if that's the case, the game doesn't have a lot of longevity. There's only one DLC left to come. This game has an awful lack of things to do and grind for. Now, I haven't stockpiled spirit points like a lot of people did. So when the new patch came out, I had just finished leveling Puppeteer, so I had no points left over for Mia, David, and Plaguebringer. And you can see I still have a level 1 Plaguebringer, which is going to bring me to the next issue, and this is the most important issue that this patch has had. This game cannot handle the Plaguebringer because of the crashes. For 2 weeks, we tried to play this game. I tried with my group to play a total of about 50 games of Survivor, and we had a crash in 41 of those 50 games. somebody in the group had a crash, to the point where 2 people had sworn off playing the game. They won't play it anymore, because game crashing. Every time without fail. Didn't matter if it was the demon, didn't matter if it was one survivor. We had games where all 3 survivors crashed. I'm 1v1ing a demon, and then the demon DC'd, which I don't know if it's a demon crash or a demon rage quitting. You know, I've had DCs less than the rest of my group has, and I have shitty internet. So, if anybody should be crashing, it should be me, of all people. I have tried to play... cannot get a Plaguebringer game that doesn't crash. I've tried 5 games of Plaguebringer, and every single one I end up crashing halfway through. And it's not a bug, it's not a glitch or anything like that in the game where I'm DCing. It's legitimately blue screen PS4. Now maybe this is a PS4 issue. PS4 can't handle, you know, this. Most of the time that the Survivor games are crashing are Plaguebringer or Mass Swarm Necromancers. Not as much on Puppeteer and Warlord, but Plaguebringer's the new demon. Why are you playing anything else? You're gonna want to play Plaguebringer. So mind you, we haven't even gotten to the balance of the game yet, and we've been identifying the problems. So, before people want to talk about balance, Saber, fix your fucking game. Because this leads me to the second issue. Bugs. Most of the bugs that were in the patch notes, such as less ships, less cars, you know, not being able to do the dupe, a lot of the dupes and glitches that were in the game, I didn't know how to do, I wasn't doing them, and I feel like there's a bit of overkill, right? People abuse cars. I don't play around cars. So they nerfed cars across the board. Demons are talking about this best patch ever, cars got nerfed. But they're still flipping all the cars in the game. They're still acting like cars are this grand issue, which I'll get to in a minute. I will cover that when I cover a further point. But something like Soda Pop. I thought Soda Pop's going to get nerfed into the ground next update. No, it didn't, because there's a bug on it that let you stack it. So they took the bug away. Is Soda Pop worthless? No. Are people talking about Soda Pop being worthless? Yes. If you need to spam more than 2 to 3 shimps at a time to heal your team sucks, and you're going to lose that game. If you're spamming shimps at full health for the damage reduction, you are wasting resources for when the demon actually does kill you, because there were a finite amount of shimps to begin with. Now there's not a finite amount of shimps. Now it's even harder for you as a demon, as a survivor player, particularly a support player, to keep your team alive. Particularly because they didn't just nerf shemps and amulets across the board, they nerfed them across the board, not just on Kandor, where I think they needed to get nerfed. I think they needed to get nerfed on the other 2 maps, just on Kandor. Even the demon side of things, Puppeteer is in a borderline broken state right now because of some of the changes that they received. Like Puppet Master, yes, the cooldown got brought back to normal, which is fine, but the units are much tankier now. 80% maximum health, which can go up to 95% if you're max level, which I am. 10% bonus damage, which goes up to 25% if you're max level. Buffing up the heavy damage build for both characters gives additional damage. Buffing up Kandorian Fury, giving additional fear. This right here is a basic unit possession build, which, for whatever which this game can single-handedly win you a game. If you find the survivors at the beginning of the game, you just win. There's nothing they can do, because you can Puppet Master at the start of the game. Fuck your energy cost. As long as you have a basic unit and a full bar, 2 survivors should be dead with a build like this, because you've got to look at your damage. So you're at 25% off your build here, right? You're getting another 8% off Puppet Master Basic, so now we're going to 33%. Kandorian Fury is going to put you up to 20%, another 20%, so I'm at 53%, and then Heavy Damage Basics putting me at 73% at the beginning of the game, without factoring in Basic Portal, Possession, anything of that nature. That's not factoring in any of my other abilities, that's not factoring in the bonus health, that's not factoring in bonus balance bar. Why I'm highlighting Puppeteer is because remember, I can't play games without them crashing. I've gotten 2 Puppeteer games off. I've won within 5 minutes. Now this is going to segue over to the part that the community is complaining about the most. Which again, my big issue is Saber's lack of communication and the servers. And I'm going to say servers to be polite because the game's crashing has chased off any ability of me to play as a non-solo. Which is going to bring me to my next point. The community for this game has always been relatively trash. First off, as a solo queue player, as a demon, I am going to run into sweat squads. Sweat squads in this game are not as bullshit as they are in Dead by Daylight. I have much more experience as a Dead by Daylight killer than I do as an Evil Dead demon. And I can tell you by far, I would much rather play demon in this game than killer in Dead by Daylight. So before people at you, the reason is Warlord has multiple ways to play the game. Puppeteer has multiple ways to play the game. Necromancer has multiple ways to play the game. Now, there is an ideal strategy for each one, such as Puppeteer being a good early rush killer, find survivors, down them, win the game in 5 minutes. Warlord is a much more tankier killer that works at the end of games, that works more around book. Right? Necromancer is a spam summoner, but he can build into boss, he can build into basic possession, he can build into elites. I wouldn't really build into elites, I think elites are trash on him still, but sweat squads in this game, like running 4 Ashes, which 4 Ashes isn't, you know, the best, most ideal lineup, but it is just a very generic, good lineup. You have 3 of the strongest characters in the game. You have 3 chainsaw wielders, the only 3 chainsaw wielders. Chainsaw's a pretty good weapon, right? You can still beat a sweat squad. It's still possible. Let's start with that. Now, the community of the game has always been split, but it's more vocal than ever with this last balance update. So let's talk about the community, because I want to address some things. First off, you have your survivor mains who come over. They don't play the demon side. I'm not going to say they don't play the demon side at all, but they don't play the demon side enough to understand the differences in why you run certain builds. Alright? This is a key thing. Now, when I first started playing the game and played more Survivor, I looked at the builds for Henrietta, and I said, oh, so Granny Hug is good because I have to inflict more damage for her to release somebody, but the grab isn't that good. Health Razor must be good. No, she has high base health already. The gas leak build is very annoying to go up against. It's incredibly annoying ability. So as I was playing the game, I wanted to spec into this. And then I played Henrietta and said, wow, this does nothing. This is a mild inconvenience to the survivors at best. And when I played Survivor, I just started playing around it more. If you don't play both sides enough to understand how each killer and survivor interact, and how builds interact, and weapons interact, then you can't comment. So the survivor mains out there who want to talk about the balance of the game and want to throw shade around about the game is in the worst state possible now because they've taken away survivors' resources, but the demons are still doing their old tricks. Okay. First off, survivors have a lot of resources available to them. Second off, the survivors are designed to be more powerful because the game is balanced around a group of 4 level 25 survivors versus 1 level 45 demon, sorry. It's not based around a bunch of level 10 survivors and a 45 demon. So the survivors are supposed to work together. The survivors are supposed to have all of their abilities unlocked. They're supposed to know Arthur has sword mastery. Arthur needs to play into his sword and not use other melee weapons. Because this leads me to the most infuriating thing. Most games on the survivor side are lost in 1 of 2 stages. Well, let's say 3. And this is the main reason why I despise playing solo. First off, most survivors lose the game when it comes to building. I'll give you a great example of this. This is my Pablo build. Okay? Pablo's a bit different than the other survivors. He has to play into a core support tree that all the supports need to play into, and the remaining points he can spend how he wants. When I see Pablo builds that look like... Where's the other abilities that most people run? Most people run this. When I see Pablo builds that look like this, I roid rage. Because you're building into a relatively useless stat. You're building into a relatively useless stat. You're building into a meme build, which while it can be effective, is not ideal. You're building into an ability that has been nerfed into the ground. Oh, no, 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 I'm doing this wrong. This is the build I normally see, where, oh yeah, Pablo the tank. Pablo go do objective. Pablo get tank build. Yeah! But Pablo's a healer. I'm not talking about this as a meme build. I'm talking about this as a serious build where people are seriously talking about 3 points for 10% damage reduction being this great, awesome ability that's not. Another argument, people saying that Artful Dodger at 2 is worthless. It's not. Yes, 5% stamina is not what you think it is, but 5% stamina is better than you initially think, because 5% stamina... Do I want headshot? I want headshot. You know, 5% extra stamina on paper seems worthless, but when you realize that means that you have a little bit more stamina left over that you don't have to regenerate after dodging, that becomes very valuable the more you play, the more you need to rely on your dodge, rather than being on calm and having to spam out, I need help, I need help, I need help, like a poor damsel in distress. So when you lose in matchmaking because of a build, or when you lose in matchmaking when you get into a game. So what normally happens when I get into a game, obviously with the 2 new characters that came out, this is your next issue that you have. Me is insta-locked. Okay, that's fine. New character, I'm not gonna... You know, everybody's fighting to get the new character. Nobody wants to play support, so David sees more play than... sees less play. So I'm usually picking David to try and level him up. But, here's my issue, right? I come into a game, if I don't have a 3 or a 4 stack, I already know I'm going to be playing support. Because you need to have a support in order to win games. The balance of the game is designed around having a support. Most survivors don't seem to understand this, because every time I get into a lobby, 2 warriors are picked, a warrior and a hunter is picked, 2 hunters are picked. Now these are the damage rolls. These are the rolls that are for killing demons. Okay? You need to bring at least one of these guys. It doesn't matter if you're bringing 1 warrior, 2 warriors, 1 hunter, 2 hunters. Although I don't like multiple hunter lineups. Leader is not necessary. It's nice to have, it's not needed, okay? But at the same time, if you have a warrior, a hunter, and a support, you know, you can kind of run anything as long as it's not another support. You can run a second hunter, a second warrior, you can run a leader, doesn't matter. Most of the time, I as a player, if I'm not coming into a game and insta-locking and willing to lose the game at matchmaking, 2 to 3 people are immediately going to jump in, they're immediately going to pick warrior, they're immediately going to pick hunter. You're going to have 1 person left with 2 warriors and a hunter gone, saying, oh wow, my choices are play support or lose the game, and you'll get people that pick something like, you know, a hunter or a leader, because they don't want to play support. The obligation should not be on the last player to pick support. Part of this is on the devs, because they have not developed the support role into a role that is engaging enough on the survivor side for survivors to want to play them. Nobody wants to play Cheryl, the heal bot 9000. She's good for healing and keeping her team alive, but what good is that when you're not having fun? Now this leads me to the third and final way that survivors lose the game on their own, is loot hoarding. When you get into a game, you have to strike a balance between looting and objective. The faster you complete the 3 pages and unlock map and dagger, and I'm calling it map and dagger, okay? There's a reason for that. The faster you have those 2 blue objectives on your map points. You know what happens? That puts more pressure on the demon. Now, you can then, once you have those map pieces, loot to your heart's desire, so to speak, because the demon is going to be trying to go back and forth and figure out which of the 2 objectives you're at. Now, some of the changes they did, like making the objectives further away from each other, making it so that the demon doesn't get exercised. When they get exercised from one, they go closer to the other one instead of being yeeted generically across the map. I like a lot of those changes. I think they need to be made. I do think demons did need some buffs, but I do think that the demon's core powers in their kit needed more nerfs, and the actual role of demon needed a buff. Because as a new demon, it's very unfun to play, and it turns a lot of people off. Survivor is the absolute easiest role to get into in the game. You can learn it the fastest, and it really just comes down to which character you like, and if you like your role. Now, some characters can get away without looting. Warriors can pretty much pick up absolutely any melee weapon and be good. I have run games as Scotty with a common hunting knife or a meat cleaver or a meat hammer, and I'm still getting 70 to 80k damage, and we are winning games, no problem, in solo queue. Why? Because you can build him for absurd amounts of damage. He builds around heavy attacks. This is fine. You know, you can build any warrior around a melee weapon. You don't have to worry about guns. You don't have to worry about ammo, so to speak. You should pick up a gun so you can help depossess somebody. You should pick up ammo so that you can drop it for your teammates. Not just, oh, I'm not using that ammo type, I'm not picking that up. Hunters can do the same thing. Now, most hunters have a preferred play style of a weapon that they want. But at the end of the day, hunters get the most value out of guns. So a hunter can pick up any gun with the exception of the saw gun and the explosive crossbow and get value out of it. I think you can get value out of the crossbow because you can kind of use it like a shotgun if your aim is that bad. You can just wait until a unit is right in front of your face to shoot them. But the high damage kind of makes up for the fact that, you know, you're not going for headshot or something like that. Any of those guns except that, you can work around them as a hunter. Even as a hunter, you don't have to do too much because you have more stamina and more dodging at the beginning of the game. So even if you get into trouble, you can dodge out. You can sprint away. Leaders, most leaders have a play style for a weapon that they want. And if I'm being completely honest, the only leader that really needs to loot is Annie, because Arthur starts with the sword and Ash starts with the chainsaw. So even for the 2 leaders, you absolutely can just go and play at the start of a game. You do not have to worry about, I need to run around and find loot. The most loot you're looking for is Pink F, Shemps, and Amulets. And that brings me to the last class, Support. Why Support is unfun to play is because of the fact that Supports deal the least ranged and melee damage. See, Hunters deal the least amount of melee damage at minus 30. And Supports are only minus 20, but Hunters get gun damage. Supports don't. Warriors are minus 50 on gun damage, whereas Supports are minus 20, but Warriors get plus 50 on melee damage. Supports don't. They're minus 20. Because they're minus 20 across the board, they need at least a blue weapon or better to make up for the lack of damage. So all supports, when they have a weapon of a certain rarity, are actually dealing the tier below it in terms of damage. Okay? Which means when I'm playing support and I get into a game and I have a random Henry that is picking up every fucking item imaginable. Henry, you're not using the purple hunting rifle. Could I have it? No. You're not using it. You're not giving it to somebody else. You don't need it. Or the warrior Ash, who is one of the only characters in the game that can use a chainsaw, deciding, I don't need this purple chainsaw. Let me just drop that for the support to stare at, because I'm going to take up the blue nailed bat, which does 20 points less damage, and I don't have a weapon mastery for, and is slower. Yes, let me take that and leave an unusable weapon for a Cheryl or a Pablo. Great job. The survivors that loot whore are the ones that piss me off the most, because I will go into game chat and cuss you out. And this is, it has led to me throwing games and DCing games, because I've got a 2 or a 3, I'm your support, I can't defend myself, where a hunter can dodge at it pretty much anything. And a warrior has the health bar to tank pretty much anything. And leaders, while leaders are just as squishy as you are as a support, leaders now got a base health boost that puts them closer to supports. They have the same stamina numbers, but they all have an aura. They all deal more damage. See, I'm a support. I can't do that. You need to give me a weapon. I'm not being picky. Just give me a weapon to use. So the survivor community for this game is toxic as fuck, because you get survivors that don't know how to make builds, they don't know how to matchmake properly, they don't know how to loot properly. I had a game on Kandar where a friend of mine was playing Scotty. His internet went out. Not related to the game. The other 2 survivors are in castle, looting. Say something on mic. Hey, can y'all get the map piece while you're over there? I got the demon on me. I'm playing Amanda. 7.5 minutes of game time go by of me fighting the demon on my own. Scotty's dead. I can't have him help me. And the 2 random survivors finally picked up the map piece. And when you dare say anything about why it took so long, bro, shut the fuck up, you can just DC. I can count on one hand the number of times I have gone into the social feed and said, I wish there was a way I could endorse a survivor without sending them a friend request in the game. Shout out to Moose Mike 7, Sergeant Moose on YouTube, who I have had some really good games with. Really cool, chill survivor demon combo. Knows what he's talking about most of the time. Good overall guy, communicates well. There needs to be an endorsement system to let people know, because I get people that don't know what the hell they're doing in games that makes me want to not play the game. I don't have a problem with the crashes. I have a problem with my fellow survivors over here. So now let's move over to the demon side real quick. Demon players. The game is unfortunately being balanced around the top percentage of demons. Now, demons fall into 4 categories. You have the demons that exclusively play demon that... Actually, let's back this up. You have either low-level demons or new demons. I'll say either or, because you could be level 45 as a survivor main, not play a demon, and your first game, you absolutely are terrible. Yes, you're level 45, but you don't know what you're doing. If you are a new demon, or an under-leveled demon, like, for example, I know how to play demon, but if I played my level 1 Plaguebringer right now, you know, and the game didn't actually crash, let me finish the game, I would lose that game, and I would be bullied. No excuses. Because the game is much more survivor-sided. If you don't have points put into your tree, even basic points, you could literally fill up every common slot in this first row right here, and that would be enough of an advantage for you to compete. With just a few points, you can't compete. They're going to get turned off, and they're not going to want to play the game. So now you lose the majority of your newcomers to this game. And the game doesn't have a lot of marketing right now. The marketing buzz is over, and the fact that most of the community is now tearing itself apart with worst patch, best patch ever isn't helping. Then you have the top 1% type demons. That I don't want to name names, but I have names that are available that I will avoid at all costs if I get a lobby with them. And I will make no bones about that. I will lobby dodge them. I have taken DC penalties to avoid certain killers, because it's not that the killer is good, it's that I'm a good survivor. If I'm playing with my stack and I beat that survivor, he's gonna DC. If I'm playing against that killer, he's gonna do bullshit tactics to get the win, because most of the high-level demon players are gonna fall into one of two groups. Chill players that are playing the game because they enjoy the game, or the demons that are only out there for the win. And the demons that are only out there for the win are gonna do whatever it takes. There are demons out here that are going to spam absolute bullshit abilities and bullshit game mechanics. Like, I have had a necromancer main, who I'm not naming names, who had his boss utterly melted by me and my group. Full spec on the first point into boss. So for second point, he went for the flood. Only brought boss out to summon skeletons. This is back when the glitch was in place where the resurrection ability on Evil Ash lasted after he died. So he would just come to the point, summon a bunch of skeletons, spawn Evil Ash, summon more skeletons, pop skeleton res, and depossess his boss. Wouldn't even attack. For the sole purpose of lagging the game and crashing the game. And this is a major streamer. Whether they were streaming the game, I do not know, but I do know that they are a streamer for the game. And I would just like to mention to that, I'm not calling a name out because, in my opinion, that's a valid strategy because you were getting your ass handed to you. If you're a demon and all you care about the win, you're going to do whatever it takes to win the game. And if you're a survivor, it's either tough luck or get good. Which is another issue I have with the survivor side. The survivor players seem to think that if you're not playing the game their way, you need to get good. One of the demon main responses videos that I heard said something that offended me, even though I agreed with it. Most survivors don't know how to play the game. I agree with that sentiment, but the reasons that they listed weren't valid. Such as, oh, you need to spend more time looting and prepare yourself to fight me. No, you don't. I want survivors to prepare to fight me when I play demon. You want to know why? Because that gives me more time to trap and get my level up, so they come in thinking they're overconfident because they have legendaries, and then I pull out a fucking warlord that just received a massive buff out of my ass because demon players complained that the demons were too weak. The top 1% of demon players, whether it's by time played, which means they could suck at the game, there's a certain TTVer and YouTuber that my group has been banned from their streams because they go and harass him because of the fact that they have never won a game against me in 7 attempts. I will seek them out if at all possible because of the fact that they have broken 2 keyboards on stream playing against me and my group. That should be a good indication if you follow Evil Dead who that would be. Because of the fact that they're not good at the game. And the only reason they're in the top tier of gameplay is because they keep playing the game. Keep complaining that survivors are overpowered. But they don't go over and play a survivor and see what survivor side is like. Survivor side is easy. I'm going to admit it. Survivor side is much easier. The worst part about the survivor side is simply the fact that you have to... Some characters have to loot, and the characters that need to loot are usually the ones that also have to play the objective. So you have to find that balance. You have to find good teammates. And you have to hope the demon doesn't murder you in 5 seconds. The demon does have a lot of power. Because there's a couple of things I want to mention when people talk about how unfair the survivor side is. The survivor side has 2 win conditions, one of which is the killer DCs, and the other one is complete all the objectives. Here's how the demon side can win. First off, all the survivors DC. Second off, they run out of time. Third off, you down all of them. Fourth off, you destroy the book. So you have 4 win conditions, 3 legitimate win conditions, by the way, to win the game. And most demon players complain tooth and nail. A lot of high-level demon players complain they feel entitled to their wins. Now, the survivor side says this, they feel entitled to winning against sweat squads. No. I'm going to push back on your argument, sir. I'm going to instead insert this. I know a streamer that was a demon player that quit the game because of the fact that they were not able to win after the Kandar patch and that new map came out. Their ability to win the game in the first 5 minutes of the game got destroyed. And because they could not churn out 20 to 50 wins in a row on stream, the game wasn't right for them. So they went back to Dead by Daylight. And I watched their Dead by Daylight content just to see, and they went right back to shit like old Rancor, Nemesis, Ebony Ori, meme builds on Spirit. But they're also on PC, and they're good at Spirit, so, you know, kudos to you if you can pull off a meme build. And I'll say that to players. If you can pull off a legitimate meme build, such as me buff all of elites on Plaguebringer, me no summon elite, then, you know, kudos to you. But my main issue is the community and Saber are the two biggest problems that this game has. This game is hemorrhaging players and is going to die because new Demon players are turned off by how hard it is to get into Demon. Veteran Demons are mad that they don't win games as easily as they think they should. Demon players that play both sides or aren't playing to win generally have fun with the game and get frustrated when bullshit mechanics like Shemp duping is a thing. Now look at your Survivor side. New Survivors, they don't care. They're going to play the game if they find it fun. Veteran Survivors like me, who know what they're doing, get annoyed when other Survivors either don't know what they're doing or intentionally are doing stupid things. That makes me not want to play the game. The biggest issue that this game has right now is still a lack of context. So, another issue that I want to mention is a change to exploration mode in this patch that came out, where they've now removed all the AI enemies. This is great for being able to explore, but it's terrible for being able to go in and try out a new weapon. I still have to go play an AI game. Now, they did a lot of fixes for AI games, but I mean, AI games, I guess, are the best way to play as a solo survivor. Not playing as a fucking survivor. The tutorial for the game still doesn't cover a lot of basic mechanics. The missions for the game still vary from being wildly easy. Weekend at Nobies is it's probably one of the easiest missions. Either this or Party Down is the easiest mission. But I have friends who are stuck on this because they've been playing Survivor for so long that they're used to mission mechanics. But I digress. And when you look at this side, there's a lot of over-tuning on the Survivor side, to me, that's not needed. You know, an example being Ed. So Ed's crossbow mastery got nerfed from 10% for both crossbows down to 5% for both crossbows. The problem is that one crossbow is relatively shit, but having a bonus for it meant that, okay, I didn't mind the nerf to the other crossbow. Now at 5%, that means you literally are not moving the needle. At this point, worrying about speccing Ed into, hey, here's a purple crossbow, I need to use that. No, I'm gonna stick with my blue shotgun over that. Blue shotgun is still gonna be better because 5% doesn't move the needle anymore. His power got another nerf because salty demon players are out there talking about, oh my god, he can disable my traps, he's so broken if I build into traps. When was the last time that you ran up against a demon that played against traps? Number one, let's start with that. And number two, the main value that his trap canceling ability had was to disable and disarm crates. So if you were at a part of the map where you knew there were a lot of crates, such as Lucky Valley Lodge, such as Flight 666, such as Dead End, such as Kandar Keep, Fort Gort, you could pop your ability and go disable all the traps. But what countered that was the bug that the game had that made it to where it didn't disable demon traps on crates if you had previously disabled a trap nearby it. So then that bug got fixed, and they said, oh, let's just jack the cooldown up by 20 seconds that it didn't need. Survivors, by the way, are like, and demons alike, also have the issue, in my opinion, where they have filler perks that are not worth it. See, stopping power is a terrible perk. Since they nerf staying power is a terrible perk. And the fact that you have to put a point in order to get access to better things, I'm willing to admit that. But when I see a lot of people building into things like stopping power for no apparent reason, you know, that's a bit frustrating. The Collector gets a kind of pseudo buff because they nerfed the rarity of weapons in-game without it. But, I mean, you pretty much only are playing Ed now for the Collector. They kind of nerfed him so far into the ground, like, he's your generic hunter. Now, instead of where Kelly was the generic hunter who leaned more towards melee than guns, now it's like Ed is your generic hunter. The balance of the game really hasn't changed, in my opinion. Necromancer's still broken, if you know how to build him, and if you know how to place your flute. Puppeteer is now even further broken, and it's funny because Puppeteer is the only demon in this game's history that I have thought was underpowered, and that is near the start of the game. And then they buffed him, and I thought it was fine. The universal nerf to balance floor on the Survivor side, Annie getting a nerf to her aura, basically makes her the worst support, the worst leader in the game, and takes her from being, you know, one of the best leaders because she could benefit everybody in some way, down to there's no reason to pick her over a second hunter or second warrior. David, outside of Soda Pop, is worthless, but Soda Pop carries him relatively high on the list because that one ability can let you survive encounters. You know, another example, Warlord gets massive health and damage buff to her kits that push her over the top if you know how to play her. I don't think people talk about the demonic revival and pain parasite changes enough at the absurd amount of health regen that she can get on her units now, including possessed units, not even including the 115% maximum health buff with really bad influence 1. So the game that the developers are trying to bring it, to me, is fine. The balance of the game is fine, because there are mechanics in the game that really do make it still fun to play. Yes, going against basic unit puppeteer spam is incredibly annoying, but that strategy gets defeated by the 4 survivors grouping up and just wailing on it in turn. You know, massive health bar warlord gets burned down incredibly easily by a hunter with a good gun. Even though they nerf the headshot values on, you know, ranged weapon damage, that really doesn't hurt hunters as much as it hurts the other classes that might have built into headshot damage more. No. Necromancer being able to swarm the field, the only issue that is to me is crashing. You can still F-chain as a group and avoid the demon most of the time, as long as your game doesn't crash. Even the Plaguebringer, which people are talking about as being this overpowered broken killer, I mean, outside of 1 or 2 gimmicks that Plaguebringer has, like, I think the one gimmick I want to mention is on your basic unit, because your abilities cost energy instead of a cooldown, you can spam it, but the energy cost goes up every time you do, and the damage goes up every time you do. Meaning, the more you spam an ability, the more expensive it gets, but the more damage it deals. So if you build into that ability, like the circle ability most commonly, or double pierce, if you build into it and just keep spamming and spamming and spamming, if you have the energy for it, it doesn't really matter at that point. That can feel like a cheap gimmick, sure, but there are ways to counter it because her units are really weak. Another example being the Pit Deadite that people talk about. Oh my god, Pit Deadite is broken. It's designed to be big and tanky and not do a lot of damage for a reason. She's not a broken killer. She's really not. I don't think either of the survivors are. I think David comes in a good spot. Mia's relatively garbage. I think David's level 25, because I obviously don't have that. I don't get to play the game, either with my work schedule or the game crashing constantly. I'd love to know how good that actually makes his power, because his power is trash. Mia is not in a good place. Mia is by far the worst warrior in the game. I want to get them up to 25 before I make a video. I'd love to make a Plague Bringer video, but I want to get it leveled more. But where people, to wrap this video up, where people want to talk about balance, look, here's how you talk about balance. It's the survivor community and the demon community that need to learn to get along, or this game is going to die. Because this game, one major competition is Dead by Daylight, and if you want to overthrow that game, you have to make sure your game is good. Saber needs to get their shit together. They need to have a plan besides, we're going to release this 4th DLC pack, and then that's it. Similar to what Predator did. And that game is dead. That game only managed to revive itself because it went free to play for PS Plus for a month. And then it went right back to being dead, just like Hood. Hood, Outlaws and Thieves, which was a good game, but as soon as it got off the free, dived into the ground. I can easily see this game being a PS Plus Game of the Month within the next year after this 4th DLC pack comes out. If they don't have either more DLC, more characters, better servers, less crashes. Because right now they're doing a terrible job communicating. And address one comment of you have to balance the game around the survivor experience. Balancing the game around the survivor experience doesn't fix the issue that the survivor side has, in that being a solo survivor is very toxic. Most people don't have mics, and the people that do have mics are generally only using them to cuss you out. So, being a solo survivor, particularly a solo support or a solo leader, is nearly impossible. And it's not fun if the meta of the game is as many warriors as you can fit, one hunter, one support. Or no hunter for an extra warrior. Or, you know, multi-hunter with one support. Lineups like that aren't fun when it's one person has to sit there and not have fun playing the game because the other 3 players on their team kill everything in one shot or one swing. The demon side is just as not fair if there's no give and take. The demon side needs to be able to work for their kill because they have multiple ways to win the game, but at the same time, the demon does need a more interactive way to feel empowered rather than, oh look, I'm setting a bunch of boring traps, watch me float around the map and hold triangle. Wow, I'm gaining so much threat level. Oh wow, I can fight the survivors and they're dead because I'm over leveled. Or I need to rush them right away and I need to start fighting them and bullying them so I can force them to DC. There has to be a more interactive side to the demon to keep people happy. But the fact of the matter is that the game needs to stop balancing itself around the most vocal part of the community. They also need to do what Dead by Daylight made the mistake of doing, which is declare a win condition. And they need to declare it early. Now, obviously there is a win condition to the game. You know, it's very clear what your win condition is. But an intended style of play to meet that win condition needs to be addressed. Because I could tell you right now, Warlord is designed for book and end of game. I could tell you right now that the 4 survivors are supposed to stay grouped up the whole game. But see, we have time to test these things. And the developers don't. So they need to balance it around the stuff that we test for them, rather than, oh, all the Necromancer mains out there are saying that Flutist needs a buff. So we need to make it damage immune while the boss is up. Oh my god, all the Kelly players are complaining that she doesn't have a gun mastery. So we're going to make the meat hammer into a gun now. Where it's a gun that fires meat hammers at people. It's a great idea. Yeah. No, the Arthur mains are bitching, so we're going to give them their bug back that gives them 30% overall damage. So, the balance of the game is not going to improve until the quality of the player base improves and they fix their crashes.